Don't go near it. It hasn't moved in 3 days. The voice cracked from behind the gas station counter, low and unsure, like the man himself couldn't decide whether he was warning or confessing. Outside, under the blistered blue sky and leaning shade of an old flickering road sign, the pup lay curled against the sun-warmed concrete, not asleep, not dead, just ... waiting. A thin layer of dust clung to its coat. The fur around its eyes clotted where it had cried itself raw. Ava stepped forward anyway. The man, Greg, a part-time mechanic and full-time warrior, didn't stop her. He just rubbed his jaw with oil-stained fingers and muttered something about heartbreaks wearing collars these days. Ava crouched, her boots crunching the gravel. The dog didn't flinch, didn't even blink. It looked up at her not with fear, not with hope, but with a tired, deliberate patience, as if she was not the one it was waiting for. She held out her hand slowly. No tags, no harness, just a frayed old collar nearly buried in the fur around its neck. The pup was young, barely past the clumsy stage of puppyhood, but thin enough that Ava could count every rib through its coat. Someone had loved this dog once. You could tell by the way it hadn't yet learned to stop believing people would return. How long has it been here, she asked. Greg exhaled through his nose. Showed up Monday morning. We thought maybe someone broke down, went for help, but no one came back. Just that mutt sits there all day, stands up when a car pulls in, looks, then lays back down. Ava's eyes stayed on the dog. Only certain cars nodded, blue ones, old models, sedan types. Every time. She swallowed hard. There was something in that stillness, something almost sacred. Not abandonment, not fear, but faith, stripped down to its last thread. The kind of faith that dogs carry when no one else can. A breeze passed, kicking up a corner of a discarded newspaper. The pup didn't react. But when a truck rumbled down the highway, slowing as it neared the pump, its head lifted fast, too fast. It stood, ears perked, tail low but trembling. It took 3 steps toward the vehicle, then stopped. Just as quickly, it backed away and returned to the spot by the sign, curling back in, chest rising in small, shallow breaths. Wrong car, see that? Greg said, watching from the doorway. Every single time, like it's got a picture in its head. Ava stood slowly, her mind already racing. She wasn't from around here. Just passing through after a 3-day reporting stint in a town too small to be on most maps. But there was something about this moment that made the road feel unimportant. The way the pup had moved, so hopeful, so sure, only to crumble again. It pressed on something inside her that hadn't been touched in a long time. She took a step back and reached for her phone, not to take a photo, not for social media. She opened her notes app and began writing down every detail Greg had told her. Monday morning, blue sedan, still waiting. Has anyone tried to take it? She asked 2 people. It barked, not loud, more like desperate, like it didn't want to leave in case it missed something. Ava looked at the pup again. Its eyes were fixed on the highway now, watching cars go by like a child waiting for headlights that mean home. She didn't know who had left it, or why, but she felt something stir in her chest, something between guilt and anger and awe, because this wasn't just a stray. This wasn't a story of neglect. This was a dog that remembered, that believed. And somewhere out there, a blue sedan hadn't returned. Not yet. Ava didn't sleep that night, not really. She checked into the only motel off Route 17, a faded brick place with buzz-flickering lights and a lobby that smelled of paper coffee filters and worn carpet. Outside, the wind rattled the plastic blinds against the window. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling while the weight of the pup's waiting settled somewhere deep in her chest. She'd seen stories like this before. Dogs found in parking lots, on doorsteps at the end of driveways long after their owners were gone. But this felt different. It wasn't just the waiting, it was the precision of it. Blue sedans, nothing else. That wasn't instinct. That was memory. The next morning, Ava returned to the gas station with a thermos of black coffee and an ache in her stomach she couldn't quite explain. Greg was already out front, smoking a cigarette with his shoulder against the doorframe. He gave her a long look, as if sizing up whether she was just another passing stranger looking to feel good about doing a good thing. She didn't bother greeting him, just walked past and approached the pup again, slower this time. The dog stood up before she got close, not in fear, but readiness. Its eyes lifted toward the road. A car was coming. Gray SUV, too tall, too new. The pup sat back down. She's got it in her head, Ava said aloud, more to herself than to anyone else, that a specific car means everything's okay again. Greg echoed behind her. You gave it a name. Ava shook her head. Not yet, but she's definitely not a he. Greg nodded slowly, flicked ash from his cigarette. You think it's still out there? That car? I don't know, Ava said, but I think whatever she's waiting for, it left a hole too big to fill. As the morning heat began to creep in, Ava sat on the curb across from the pup and opened her notebook. She'd been a field journalist long enough to know when something was more than it appeared. She jotted down timestamps for each passing vehicle, watched the dog's reactions. For blue sedans came through before noon. Each time, the dog stood, waited, sat down, no movement, no barking, just silent judgment. But the twist came at 1:47 p.m. A dark blue Lincoln pulled off the road, old model, 90s make, the kind with rounded edges and sun-faded trim. The moment the tires crunched gravel, the dog sprang to its feet, tail straight, front legs tense, ears lifted. This time, it stepped off the curb entirely, halfway across the lot before it stopped. Not a sound, just eyes locked onto the windshield. Ava stood too. Something was happening, but the car wasn't stopping at the pump. It slowed near the far end of the station, circled the back where an old ice chest sat beside the air compressor. The driver never got out. Instead, the Lincoln pulled back onto the road and vanished westward, and the pup, she just stood there, trembling then. For the first time, she let out a sound, not a bark, a low guttural whine that rose from her throat, like it had been buried for days. Ava felt her chest cave at the sound. It was mourning, no other word for it. The dog had been sure. She thought that was it. Ava whispered. Greg had come out by now, watching the road with a strange look on his face. That Lincoln's been through here before. I remember the dent in the back door. Ava turned sharply when he scratched the back of his neck. Few days ago might have been the day the dog showed up. A jolt of adrenaline surged through her. She stepped toward him. Did anyone get out? Didn't see that they stayed parked behind the ice chest a while. Thought maybe they were dealing with engine trouble. Didn't think to check. Ava didn't speak. She walked quickly around the building, heart in her throat, and stopped at the spot the car had parked. The gravel was disturbed, tire tracks just barely visible in the packed dust. A few crumpled fast food wrappers, but nothing more until she saw it, something glinting behind the ice chest. She knelt and reached into the dirt, a keychain old and rusted, shaped like a tiny silver bear. Faded letters etched into the back. Ellie's ride. Her breath hitched. Ava stood, brushing dust from her hands. She looked back toward the pup. The dog hadn't moved, still staring down the road like the car might return, but her body was slumped now, shoulders low, ears back, as if that was the last of her hope. Leaving with the Lincoln, the keychain told Ava everything she needed to know. That wasn't a stranger's car. That was her car. The pup's person, the one she'd been waiting for, and they'd been here, seen her, chosen not to stop. A lump swelled in Ava's throat. She returned to the dog slowly, her hand clutched around the keychain, and she didn't offer it, not yet, just knelt beside her and waited. After a long pause, the pup finally turned her head, eyes finding Ava's like they had before, not with trust, not with fear, but with an ache that asked one terrible question: why didn't they want me anymore? Ava didn't have the answer, but she felt, with a sudden, terrible certainty, that this wasn't just a lost pet. This was a choice. Someone had left her here on purpose, and whatever their reason, the pup didn't believe it. Not yet, but faith, even in dogs, can only survive for so long, and Ava wasn't sure how many more blue sedans the pup could take before she gave up for good by the end of the third day. The dog had stopped rising for every car she still watched, still lifted her head whenever wheels hummed off the highway onto the station lot. But her movements had dulled, like someone who keeps hoping but no longer lets their heart race. Ava sat beside her now, cross-legged on the warm pavement, notebook closed, pen forgotten. The silver bear keychain rested in her palm, the name Ellie's Ride catching soft glints of evening sun. A name, a clue, and, possibly, a betrayal. Greg approached with a paper tray of water and leftover sandwich crusts. He placed them gently beside the dog, who sniffed at them but didn't eat. "You should call someone," he said, not unkindly. "Animal control. A rescue, somebody." "She doesn't need a rescue," Ava replied, her voice flat. "She needs a reason to stop." Waiting. Greg didn't argue, just nodded and backed away, his boots scuffing against the concrete like the ground itself was holding on to the silence. But Ava couldn't let this go, not now. The keychain had rattled something loose, a feeling that there was more beneath. This, then, just a left-behind pet. People didn't circle back to a gas station, watch from behind an ice chest, and drive away without a reason. That was hesitation. That was guilt. That was unfinished. She took a photo of the keychain, then of the pup whose ears had lifted slightly at the soft clink of metal. Ava saw the flash of recognition in her eyes, brief but unmistakable. She knew that sound back. In her motel room, Ava uploaded the image to a small lost and found pet forum, attaching the words "found waiting near Route 17, no tag. Recognizes blue sedan, keychain says Ellie's Ride." She hit post on, waited. The night passed slowly. Somewhere past midnight, she drifted into a restless sleep with her phone balanced on her chest, glowing faintly. When she woke, the morning sun cut hard through the blinds, and her inbox had a reply. The subject line read, "That's our dog. Please don't contact police." Her heart jumped. She opened the message with trembling fingers. "Her name is Daisy. Please, we're only a few hours away. Don't take her anywhere. We'll come now. She's not dangerous. She's just scared. We didn't mean to leave her." It wasn't supposed to happen this way. There was no name, no phone number. Just an IP-stamped message from an account created minutes before the reply. Ava checked the location. Somewhere outside Phoenix, Arizona, 6 hours away. She called Greg. "She's not a stray," she said, before he could even say hello. "Someone's coming. They say it wasn't supposed to. That happened." There was silence on the line. "Do you believe that?" he asked. Ava stared at the screen. I don't know, but I believe Daisy does. By the time she arrived at the station, Daisy was already on her feet. Tail stiff, ears alert. She was facing the road again, like something in her body had shifted, sensed something coming. This time, Ava joined her. She stood, hand in her coat pocket around the keychain, and watched the road. An hour passed, then two. At 12:06 p.m., a navy blue Lincoln rolled off the highway. Daisy didn't just stand, she ran, bolted from the gas station lot, kicking dust and gravel behind her. She skidded to a halt as the car braked hard. Then slowly, the rear door opened. A woman stepped out, mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, face pale and damp with tears. Her voice cracked the moment it left her throat. Daisy, the dog froze, then whimpered one long high sound that broke Ava's chest clean open. She took 3 hesitant steps, then ran, full speed, into the woman's arms. The woman collapsed to her knees, sobbing, holding the dog so tightly it looked like she might never let go again. Ava watched, unmoving, as the two reunited like a lifeline had snapped taut. After days of slack. Greg came out and stood beside her, both of them too quiet to speak. Eventually, the man from the driver's seat got out, lean, sunburnt, worn. He nodded at Ava, a wordless thank you thick with shame. Ava stepped forward. You were here 3 days ago. He looked down. We were trying to find the strength to come back. She waited. She belonged to our daughter, the woman said, voice hoarse, still cradling Daisy. Ellie, she was 7. The accident was, it was in March. Ava's breath caught. She was riding in the back seat with Daisy. The man added only one of them made it. They didn't need to say which. She kept waiting by the door. Every morning, every sound in the driveway, she thought it was Ellie. The woman kissed Daisy's head. We thought if we left her where she could be found, she might move on. We couldn't stand watching her wait anymore. We thought we were doing the kind thing. You thought wrong, Ava said softly. The man nodded. We see that now. Daisy sat between them, eyes closed, breathing calmly for the first time. Ava knelt and slipped the keychain into the woman's hand. Her fingers closed around it like a prayer. The woman looked at Ava. Thank you for not walking away. Ava just nodded, throat tight. As the Lincoln pulled back onto the road, this time with Daisy in the back seat, face pressed to the window, still watching Ava as they drove away, Greg walked over and folded his arms. Well, he said, that was something. Ava looked down at the dust, then up at the sky, hot and wide and full of stories no one ever thinks to tell. She waited, she said. She did, Greg replied, and for once the waiting had been worth it. They were gone by mid-afternoon. The Lincoln disappeared down the highway, swallowed by the heat shimmer and dust trails, and for a long while Ava just stood there, arms folded, watching the space where the car had been. It should have felt complete. Resolution delivered, pain acknowledged, faith rewarded. Daisy was back where she belonged. The moment should have been enough, but it wasn't. Something gnawed at her. Not doubt she believed their story, at least the bones of it. The wreck, the grief, the unbearable way Daisy looked for a child who would never walk through the door again. But there was a gap in the rhythm of it, a hesitation that didn't fit. She glanced toward the gravel behind the ice chest again, where the car had once parked to watch. Ava had seen a lot of grief in her years of reporting, but not all grief came clean. Some arrived buried in justification, in tightly rehearsed lines. And something about the mother's voice, the way she said we thought we were doing the kind thing, felt too practiced, too final. Inside the station, Greg was restocking the cooler shelves, humming an old Fleetwood Mac song under his breath. Ava leaned against the counter and asked, do you have security cameras? He looked up, one brow lifted. Not good ones, motion. Why would they have caught anything from the day Daisy first showed up? Greg set down the soda bottles. You think there's more to this? Ava didn't answer. He disappeared into the back office. 15 minutes later, Ava was sitting in front of a scratched monitor, watching grainy black and white footage fast forward through time-stamped windows. Most of it was nothing. A bird landing on the pump, a breeze kicking through discarded napkins. Then Monday, 5:04 a.m., a dark blue Lincoln, pulling in slow, headlights off. Ava leaned forward. The car parked where she remembered, near the compressor, and the ice chest, barely within frame. It idled there for 6 minutes. Then the rear door opened. A small shape jumped out. Not pushed, not yanked. The figure unmistakably. Daisy hopped down and turned in a circle, tail wagging once. The door closed behind her. The car didn't drive off, not right away. It waited. Inside the car, shadows moved, a hand to the window, a face in profile. Then a woman's silhouette, unmistakably the mother, lifting something in her hand and pressing it to her chest. Holding still, Ava couldn't be sure, but it looked like a stuffed animal, something small and soft. Daisy walked back toward the car twice, but the door never opened again. At 5:10, the Lincoln eased back, turned and rolled onto the road. The taillights faded. Greg was quiet behind her. Then he exhaled through his nose and said, that wasn't surrender. That was ritual. Ava nodded slowly. She brought her daughter's ghost here. Made Daisy watch her let it go. It changed everything. The story wasn't one of abandonment. It was something else, darker, more intimate. The gas station wasn't chosen for safety or visibility. It was chosen for distance. A place to set down memory and turn away before it became permanent. Daisy hadn't just been waiting for someone, she had been waiting at the last place someone said goodbye. Ava left the station not long after, her notebook stuffed with sketches and scribbles that no longer felt finished. She wasn't ready to leave it behind, not yet. There was still too much inside the air, too much in the eyes of that pup who had waited with such precision, that Lincoln hadn't come back for her. It had returned for the people in it, for closure, not reunion. Daisy had been incidental, almost a witness. The motel room felt colder that night. Maybe it was the silence, or maybe just the way grief had brushed up against her again, the kind that doesn't speak loudly, but lingers like mist on the edge of sleep. Ava kept replaying the footage in her mind. The moment the door opened, the way Daisy had looked up, she was going to write about it. Of course she was. Not the cheap, viral headline kind of story, but the quiet kind. A story about grief and memory and how even animals carry rituals we don't understand. She knew how to thread that line, how to tell the truth without tearing open the people inside it. But then her phone buzzed. Another message, no subject line this time, just a name, Ellie's ride. The message said, "Thank you. I'm sorry we weren't honest." Daisy wasn't just Ellie's dog. She was in the back seat when it happened. Ellie had unbuckled to pull her up when the crash hit. She was trying to keep her safe. We blamed Daisy for surviving. We didn't mean to, but we did. Ava stared at the screen for a long time. It took us months to admit it. And when Daisy kept waiting for Ellie, it just made it harder. The silence at home. It cracked us. So we brought them here. Ellie's blanket, her bear, Daisy. We thought if we did it together, maybe we could breathe again. But when she ran to the car today, I realized we'd made her carry everything. We couldn't. There was a second line beneath it, hastily typed. "We're taking her to Ellie's grave tomorrow. She deserves to say goodbye." Ava put the phone down and let the silence fill the room. There it was, the twist the story had waited for. Not in the dust or the dog's eyes or even in the keychain, but in the awful, ordinary truth of being human, of how love, grief, and guilt tangle until you forget where one ends and the next begins. And in the middle of it all, a dog who waited, because sometimes they carry the burden of goodbye when we no longer know how. The cemetery sat at the edge of a small desert town, a quiet stretch of land fenced by cottonwood trees and brittle wind. Ava arrived just after noon, the sky bleached pale with heat. She hadn't planned on coming, hadn't been invited, but when the second message came that morning with the name of the cemetery, she understood it wasn't just a detail. It was an opening, a final page waiting to be read. Daisy was already there when Ava arrived. The Lincoln sat beneath a crooked tree, its engine silent. Ellie's parents stood on either side of a simple white headstone, the grass around it new and still settling into the soil. Daisy sat between them, not restrained, not commanded, just present. Her posture was calm now, no longer strained with longing or confusion. If she remembered this place, she gave no sign, but she didn't move. She watched. Ava kept her distance, standing at the gate, letting the scene unfold without interfering. She saw the woman kneel down and place a small object on the grave, the keychain, Ava guessed, though she couldn't be sure. The man placed a single flower beside it. Then both parents rested their hands on Daisy's back. The dog leaned into them softly, no whines, no trembling, just a quiet stillness, as if the weight she had carried for days had finally found ground to settle into. The moment lingered, and then, slowly, the woman turned. Her eyes met Ava's across the grass. No words were exchanged, just a nod, not of recognition, but of gratitude too raw to shape into speech. Ava gave a slight nod in return. They left soon after, the three of them, Daisy now in the back seat again, not pacing, not anxious, her head out the window as the car rolled past, ears catching the breeze, eyes steady on Ava for just a second. Then they were gone, swallowed by the same road they'd once left her on. Only this time, she wasn't waiting, she was returning. Ava remained in the cemetery a while longer. She approached the grave slowly. Ellie's name was etched in clean, soft lines, the dates painfully short. Beside it sat the silver bear keychain, worn but polished, and tucked underneath was a folded strip of pink fabric, a corner of a child's blanket, Ava guessed. She knelt, brushing dust from the base of the stone, and whispered a quiet thank you, not just to Ellie, but to the truth that had risen from the silence. Back at the motel that evening, Ava opened her laptop. The story she had written over the past few days had changed, transformed into something far more human than she had expected. It wasn't about a loyal dog waiting for a car, not really. It was about the space left behind by loss, about the things we make others carry when we can't bear them ourselves, and about how healing doesn't always begin with forgiveness. Sometimes it begins with honesty. She titled the piece, "The Pup Who Waited, and the People Who Finally Turned Around." The article ended not with a twist but with a moment. Daisy's face at the window, the cemetery gate swinging in the breeze, and the quiet grace of a family trying, finally, to bring something home. Not a dog, not even peace, just a sliver of absolution. Ava hit publish, and for a long time she sat in the quiet that followed, letting the silence wrap around her like the last page of a book. She thought of all the waiting in the world, dogs at doors, parents in hospital chairs, friends staring at unanswered texts, and how, sometimes, that waiting wasn't foolish at all. Sometimes it was the bravest thing we did. Because deep down we all want someone to come back, and when they do, when the car finally turns around, we don't need explanations. Just open arms, a soft seat in the back, and the warmth of knowing we were not wrong to hope, not wrong to wait, not wrong to love. Asterisk.